I'm here at the Africat Foundation, and stretched out behind me you can see 20,000 hectares of their reserve. Now, the Foundation's premise is to look after Africa's carnivores, in particular the big cats. They rescue these animals and they rehabilitate them, but also within this area they're caring for wildcats as well. And we're talking about cheetahs and leopards in the main. These animals, as you know, are super special, but these days, even here, even in this landscape, which looks so unspoiled, almost a perfect wilderness, they unfortunately have all sorts of threats. Now, we love these animals from our armchairs, but we don't have to live with them. The local people here do, and very often, I'm afraid, that leads to perhaps understandable conflict. And these animals in many places, even in areas such as this, are suffering. They're being persecuted.
All of these traps have been collected from nearby, some designed to kill game for meat, others to kill predators. And poaching for skins is still a real problem.
And Africat wants to address this. So it's got its reserve here to look after the animals here, but it's more than that. It's about people understanding how to live with these animals outside the reserves. And they have a whole range of ideas, innovative ideas, to make this work.
Over the last 20 years, Africat has rescued over 1,000 cheetahs and leopards, and 85% of them have been returned to the wild, a great achievement. But now the goal is to turn their 20,000 hectare nature reserve back into its natural state. Africat uses tourism to support conservation and has a firm commitment to education, both of its visitors and the local communities.
Tristan, Africat and Okonjima, it's a massive operation, isn't it?
It's a big concern. A big concern in the size and with what we deal with on a daily basis, whether it's the project, whether it's tourism, which is obviously our livelihood, where the funding all comes from. It is the park or the greater reserve area that we have, 22,000 hectares, about 200 square kilometers, whether it's bringing school groups and educational groups in from outside. It's the tourism side of things, from camping to voluntourism. So yes, it's a big concern, and it's it employs a lot of people.
The animals which are in captivity, those which can't go back to the wild, presumably they're very valuable in terms of education.
Well, that's it. I mean, we have to understand that captive animals' welfare is not conservation. It's definitely a way to educate our youth, the children of the future, Namibia's next generation. When captive animals are used as ambassadors, where children can study them and fall in love with them, then it works.
Conservation isn't just about protecting animals, it's very much about education. What's equally important is making sure that the local people learn about these animals too. Africat now has a custom-built facility where local people can come and learn about these animals. Learn how to live with them in harmony. Consequently, we can be assured they have a future.
And that means starting young. Africat has just built a fabulous new school for all of its employees' children. And conservation, looking after the environment and living with predators is firmly in the curriculum. One of the ways that Africat supports its work is through Okonjima, and Okonjima is a luxury lodge set here in this landscape where you can come and visit. It's got all the thrills and spills of high-end comfort.
But more importantly, it's here And you drive out into this landscape, and with the guide's skill and knowledge, you learn all about how it works. You engage with those cats. I mean, this is the place to get fantastic photographs, if that's what you're after. Of cheetah, of leopard, of caracal, perhaps even of wild dog, not to mention all of the other game.
But it's not all about the big charismatic carnivores. Understanding how all of the little creatures play a role in the ecosystem is equally important, and the guides are keen to tell you about it.
I can actually see that this is an active termite mound simply because there's a lot of fresh mud on the side. Okay.
There are all sorts of things that you can do when you come here. Perhaps the most exciting of all is tracking some of the animals on foot. So you're out of the vehicle and in the landscape. You can feel it, you can smell it, you can really engage with it. And if you're really lucky, you might come across cheetah, wild dog or hyena. Sometimes, if they're resting and content, you can get really close to them.
Pause. People and Wildlife Solutions is Africat's voluntourism project. So if you feel like really lending a helping hand, then maybe this is for you. Mornings are spent helping maintain the habitat, or perhaps working on the fences. The rest of the time is safari time. Many visitors to Africat and its website are kind enough to support the work here with a donation.
If people adopt animals at Africat, the money goes towards the upkeep of the animals, so for feeding and health checks. And once they've adopted and the payment has been made, they will receive a certificate like the one you can see on the screen to my left. Also updates on how the animal is doing here at the Carnival Care Center. We really appreciate your support here at Africat, and adoptions make perfect Christmas and birthday presents.
All of the funds that you contribute through your visit here go towards this conservation. Okunjima the Lodge supports Africat, the charitable foundation, and it's a great partnership. When tourists visit, what's the best thing that they take away with them? What's the real key, the core of their experience here?
I think it is being able to understand that, you know, the link between education and conservation is so important. And clients leaving here, feeling that they've contributed and had a bit of the luxury and, you know, the nice that goes with it, the good food and, you know, a good bottle of wine and all the luxuries, but yet being able to actually contribute to the greater conservation vision of Africat and Okunjima.
Here's a map of Namibia, and this is Africat and Okunjima here in the central part of the country. But as you can see, it's surrounded by commercial farms, mainly cattle. And these, of course, have their own inherent problems when it comes to living with predators, something that Africat has been trying to deal with and, in fact, dealing with successfully over a number of years. But it is an island lost in all of this farmland, and this makes it quite vulnerable. Imagine if there were a fire here and all of the animals were destroyed, or a disease breaks out, or we suffer some local extinction. It would mean that it would be very difficult for these animals to recolonise the area. So ideally what we want to do is have a network of joined protected areas across the whole country. And Africat has started that in some way by having Africat North, which is up here. Now this is a very different place and it has some different problems. It's very close, in fact on the edge of Etosha National Park, a magnificent resource that Namibia has. But the problem here is that lions, for instance, move out of Etosha, where they're protected, into these community farmlands here, and this brings them into direct confrontation with people. They eat their stock, and of course they're dangerous animals, difficult to live with. So one of the principal aims at the moment of Africat North here is education. It's understanding what the requirements of the people in this area are,
and then implementing systems of wildlife management so that the two can live together harmoniously. Ultimately, what we'd like to do is join this park and Okanjima here and here, all together in a great network of reserves. Given the scale of the country, you can appreciate that that is a tall order. A necessary ambition, though.